Howdy y'all, Fast Force 289. And so tonight what we're going to be doing is working on my 1968 Ford Fairlane. And what we're going to end up doing is changing the brake booster. If you've seen in my last video, I redid the rotors because they were warped. Well, it turns out that I have a bad brake booster. When I would drive the car, I'd have brake drag. So I figured maybe the push rod needed adjusting. So I brought the car back, I adjusted the push rod length. I adjusted it 3 different times, mind you. But every time I adjust it, everything will be fine. It works good. I go drive it, I come back, it has brake drag. I could pull the car in the garage, get out, put it in neutral, and could not push the car. So I adjusted the rod so much that it eventually bottomed out and you could not adjust it anymore. Well, when it did that, I got to thinking about unplugging the vacuum line. And when I did that, it released the brakes and the car would move. It had no more brake drag. So therefore it was a bad brake booster. I contacted Master Power Brakes. Now I know, I'm not saying anything bad about Master Power Brakes. It happens, especially right now with the supplies that are going on right now. People are getting bad parts. They're having a hard time finding work, or people that want to work, I should say, and getting a hard time getting parts. I think that what happened, they just happened to get a bad batch of parts in, or maybe I just happened to be the luck of the draw for them 2 specific parts. What are the odds, right? But it does happen. I have nothing bad to say about Master Power Brakes. Every time I have contacted them, they have been nice, friendly, and courteous to me, and just genuine. They're really good people over there, and real helpful. When I told them I had a problem with the rotors, they shipped the rotors out, no problem. When I told them about this, I told them the test that I performed about adjusting the rod length. It kept doing it. The push rod gets stuck out. And now something else, I took a hammer and actually tapped the push rod back in. I could see it go back in. It was hanging up somehow for some reason. I don't know why. And I told them about unplugging the vacuum line, and then the brakes instantly released, which is the signs of a bad brake booster. They said, yes, that's right. It's definitely a bad brake booster. They shipped me another one. They shipped me another one out the very next day. Good to go. So we're going to be installing the new brake booster. It's very simple. There ain't a whole lot to it. And you can do it without taking the brackets off the car. You don't need to disconnect the brake pedal. You don't need to disconnect, or you don't need to unbolt the bracket from the firewall. So with that being said, let's jump right into it, and let's see how it performs after I get this new one installed. All right, so what we're going to start with is we're going to just pull the bolts here off. The nut on each side, we don't have to disconnect the lines or anything like that. All we got to do is take the nuts off. We can take the master cylinder, just kind of lean over, and the brake lines will hold it. That way we don't have to bleed anything. So that'll sit there just like that, and it'll be good to go. Now we have to remove these 4 nuts. There's 4. There's 2 up here and 2 at the bottom. We'll remove those 4 nuts, and then this booster piece here, this entire thing can slide off. The bracket here. The bracket can stay mounted to the firewall, and then we also got to disconnect this lever back here too. All right, so it's kind of hard to get in the car at a good angle to show you how this works. But after you take these 4 bolts here out, you got a pin. This right here will slide through a lever on the brake booster bracket. And then you'll have 2 washers. The pin will slide through the lever and then into this. 1 washer's on this side, of course, and then 1's on this side. And then a quarter pin goes through here to tie it all together. And then that holds this all together. Got our new brake booster here. It's absolutely beautiful. All right, so we got the booster installed. If you notice, I didn't take a whole lot of video of actually doing it because it's very hard to get in here to show you, because I can show you unbolting this, pulling the master cylinder off. That's easy. But getting back here to all this is very difficult to show. That's why I showed you on the couch about how this pin here works, because it's hard to get up in here and actually show you the process of it. But once you get all that apart, it comes right out. You unbolt it, you bolt the new one up, put everything back together, and you put your master cylinder in there. And you do need to readjust the pin. I should have showed you that, what you need to do is they call for a 20 to 30 thousandths gap between the rod and the master cylinder. So the rod will have like a gap, which is nothing. You're talking about a gap that's like that, you know, or so, whatever, somewhere in, you know, in there. 20 to 30 thousandths clearance. It's not an exact science, just as long as it's good. You don't want too big of a gap because your pedal will be really low, but you don't want it contacting the master cylinder because then you could have brake drag. What I did, because I don't have that special gauge tool that they got, where you can actually measure the pin length and all, I took my dial caliper and I measured the depth of the master cylinder piston and then measured the length of the rod going out and just did it that way, and then give me a little bit of extra slack in between for the gap between the rod and the master cylinder. But what you can do is once it's installed, you can come back here, and this is the push rod right here. And what you can do is you can actually take this and feel it, like take the slack out of it. Sorry, that was the hood. You can take the slack out of it and then pull on it. And it's going to be tight, but you can, if you pull tight on it, I did that to feel how big my spacing is. You can feel when you take the slack out of this, I see there's a little bit of slack. Take the slack out of that, then you can actually feel the gap and whenever it makes contact with the piston in the master cylinder. As long as it's not too big of a gap, you have very little movement, that's all you need. But it is done. Now it's time to go road test the car, and hopefully everything is good to go. Alrighty guys, well, it's perfect. I test drove the car a few times to make sure that it would work right, because before, when I would adjust it, especially if it's set for a while, I could go drive it a little ways, but the more I hit the brake, it's like the worse it got, you know. So I went ahead and drove it a little bit to put some miles on and make sure that it stops right and everything acts right and it's perfect. No lie, before I could literally pull in the garage and put it in neutral and could not move the car. Like the brakes were holding that tight. And you could not, like, you had to push hard to get it to even move it even a little bit. Like it wouldn't move. Now I can get in there and look, that's just with my leg. I can see it moving. Now the brakes are free like they're supposed to be. As a matter of fact, before it used to sound like a school bus coming up to a stop, because the brakes are heating up. They constantly got tension on them, and when you hit the brakes, since they got hot, they would squeak or squeal to a stop. It was just cringy. I hate that. So that's gone, completely gone. No more brake drag, no more screeching or squealing, no more brake noise. So we're good to go. Like I said, it happens. I'm not mad with Master Power Brakes. I'm actually pleased with them because they are very kind people over there. If you have a Classic and you want to convert your drum car to disc brakes, and they even also have a higher performance level where you can get like these huge disc brakes and all, kind of like what Willwood offers. I look into them. You know, they got a good price, and they have a good kit. I just happen to be the luck of the draw that got the bad rotors and the bad booster. It happens, you know. I don't really hold them at fault necessarily. I'm sure they got a distributor. I mean, I don't know if they make their own parts right there in like a warehouse. I don't know, but it happens. You just get bad parts sometimes, you know. I just happen to be the luck of the draw, and it's kind of odd to get both bad rotors and a booster, but hey, you know, it happens. So, but yeah, very pleased. And now it is good to go. Now we can move on to another project. So that's good. I can stop worrying about the brakes now and move on to something else. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. It would help me out. And also leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. And if you've had any experiences like this in the past or anything like that. Or if you got any other comments, I don't care. You want to talk about something, go ahead and leave a comment. Drop it down below. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. It would help my channel, and it helped me out, and I'd appreciate it. That's it. Y'all have a good night, as always, and thank you for watching. Take care.